Many Iranians around the world are celebrating after the announcement that the U.S.-Israeli-led airstrikes killed Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, ending his decades-long rule over the country, representing a significant blow to the Islamic regime. For more on what this means for the future of Iranians, we're joined by Nazanin Afshin-Jam, an Iranian Canadian human rights activist. Nice to see you again. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks for having me back, Rosie.
Well, who knew we'd get to this place so quickly? I'm just going to start there. How you were feeling since you heard the news that the Supreme Leader's been killed? Yeah.
Yes, well, as we spoke about last time, Rosie, the Iranian people have been occupied by a murderous regime that has suffocated all their rights and freedoms for the past 47 years, children executed, women raped, ethnic and religious minorities persecuted. So today, they feel some sense of relief that their oppressor, particularly the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, and what I'm getting word of is that there's 50 other top IRGC commanders and regime officials that have been eliminated. Mm-hmm. So there's a mixed sense of jubilation, but fear at the same time.
And the fear is about what? The fear is about what? Who comes next? What it looks like?
Well, even what comes next in the coming days. Sure. Yesterday, when Iranians got the news that Khamenei had been eliminated, they came out on the streets, chanting, dancing, sharing sweets, screaming from their balconies with joy, inside and outside Iran. Mm-hmm. And the fear, and then so some people were out on the streets, and the repression forces again started to go after them. So the fear is that what's ahead of us in the coming days? Yes, the top command has been killed, but there's a whole spider web of regime officials and IRGC forces that are still in place. And in fact, they've already been replaced as of today. Sure. So there's a lot of work ahead.
The president obviously called for Iranians to rise up, to take to the streets, to take this moment, to take back their country. But to your point, given how deep the regime goes in terms of the structure, how concerned are you about what could happen if people do that?
Well, it all depends. Power in numbers. President Trump had told everybody for now, stay in your homes,
yes,
be safe until, the bombardment stops. But when the coast is clear, come out. And I think the Iranian people are ready for that moment. They've shown that they will sacrifice everything, their lives, for the sake of freedom and the generations to come. And many of the leaders outside the country and inside the country are expressing to the oppression forces to step down, to defect, and they're encouraging them to join the freedom-loving people of Iran. I hope they heed that call. Perhaps there's still extremist elements that will be in play, but this is a country of 90 million people. If only a percentage of that, let's just say 5 to 10% of the people come out in the streets, they can storm the government buildings. And let's not forget, unilaterally, Israel and the United States have taken out the IRGC command and control and have significantly weakened the military apparatus that suppresses the people. Mm-hmm. So there is a lot of hope. Of course, there's trepidation. Nobody wants war. Nobody wants any civilian deaths. But the Iranian people, at least the ones that I've spoken to, say that they're willing to pay the price. They understand that there's a price to freedom.
There are reports this morning, just now, that the new regime, whatever form that has taken, has already reached out to the U.S. president to talk to him. I wonder if you're concerned that could happen, that they see what the writing on the wall and try and get back to a negotiating position so they can hold the country under pressure.
This is a legitimate fear that all Iranians have. In fact, there's a precedence for it, as what we saw. What had taken place in Venezuela, where Maduro was taken out, but yet the second in command was put in its place. And the Iranian people do not want an Islamic Republic 2.0. They will have nothing short of a complete change of regime, a secular, free, democratic Iran. And so there is that fear. We don't know what talks are happening behind the scenes.
Yes.
We hope that President Trump and our other allies recognize that there is a pluralistic democratic alternative at the table that would be able to take these positions. And of course, a lot of our leaders are right now in Evin prison inside Iran, and they will have a strong role to play once the regime falls and we're in a transitional period.
I've asked many people on the program this today, but do you think that the killing of the supreme leader is a pivot moment, is a really important moment for what comes next?
It is a game changer. Psychologically speaking, as I said, this was the man in charge of so much oppression and death. I'm talking tens of thousands, if not in the hundreds of thousands, of people that were killed, injured, maimed, put on death row. The list goes on. And so just the fact that he is gone, you could see it in the eyes of the Iranian people, in their tears. We're all still in a state of shock, but it is a huge moment for the Iranian people. It's a major moment in history.
Yeah. What did you do when you heard he had been killed, Nazanin?
I don't like any death, but I must say for my Iranian compatriots, I had a great sense of relief, although for justice purposes, what I would have loved is to see him stand on trial in an international tribunal at the International Criminal Court, because I know so many of these victims, and I know they would have wanted to see him humiliated, and I feel somewhat that he got the easy way out, that he might be seen as some kind of martyr among his supporters. So in that way, I'm bothered, but I will say that my family, we popped open a bottle of champagne last night that my parents had gifted to my husband and I on our wedding day.
Well, that sounds like a decent celebration for you. Nazanin, always nice of you to make the time. Nazanin Afshin-Jam, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Rallies across this country started once news broke about the U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran. These are just some of the scenes that happened right across this country of rallies supporting regime change in Iran. Many people obviously forced to flee Iran after the fall of the Shah in 1979, with generations unable to return for fear of the regime. There are many conflicted feelings for Iranian Canadians, with questions obviously about what happens next for their country, what direction it will go in. Kaveh Shahrooz is an Iranian Canadian lawyer and senior fellow at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute. And he joins me now. Nice to see you this morning.
Very good to be with you.
Tell me what was going through your mind yesterday when you heard the news that this operation had begun and that the Ayatollah had been killed, as are other senior leaders.
Really was a roller coaster of emotions yesterday. Still processing it. On the one hand, I think a lot of people that I know, virtually everybody that I know, was very, very happy that this step had been taken. Iranians would have preferred to be able to do this themselves, to overthrow this regime. But I think, as we saw in January and as we have seen throughout the years, anytime that Iranians came to the streets to voice their grievances, they were met with bullets. And I think they had exhausted all possibilities. So really, they had been hoping for outside intervention, and it finally came yesterday. But at the same time, obviously, I worry about the possibility of the loss of life among our civilians. And then finally, when the news came that Ali Khamenei had been killed and that news was confirmed, I was thrilled. This is a man that had destroyed the lives of so many people, killed so many, tortured so many, forced so many of us to go into exile. But at the same time, there was a feeling that this perhaps wasn't justice, that it would have been much better if he'd been captured, if he'd been put on trial, that what happened to him was perhaps far better than what he actually deserved.
Interesting. Obviously, the president called for Iranian people to rise up, to take control of their country, to squash the regime entirely. We are hearing that there will be a new supreme leader chosen within the next day or two. What are your concerns for Iranians there now, from a human rights perspective, given what happened just a couple of months ago?
Well, I worry that the regime, in order to hold on to power, will use even more brutal force. I mean, it's hard to imagine more brutal force than they used, but this regime is frankly capable of just about anything. I have no doubt that Iranians are just waiting to get back into the streets to demand that this regime fall, to take over government agencies. But this is a regime that has its back against the wall, and I have no doubt that they will shoot to kill, that they will use military-grade weapons, that they will do just about anything to crush a popular uprising like that.
How concerned are you that whoever is chosen to replace Khamenei is actually, worse? that person is more hardline. That they will, to your point, move to oppress and kill Iranians who are willing to take to the streets.
Well, quite frankly, I don't know who the new supreme leader will be, but they will be as bad, if not worse, than Khamenei. I mean, at this point, the regime is they've all circled the wagons. They've decided that they're going to fight to the last bullet. It certainly seems that way. My hope is that in the next few days, as Israel and the United States continue their military action, that they take out the apparatus of repression, that they will go after the IRGC, that they will go after the intelligence ministry, the sort of institutions that have been responsible for so much repression and so much bloodshed. And hopefully, if that happens, then the people will have a fighting chance, regardless of who the new supreme leader actually is.
There is some questions and criticism about this move by the U.S. and Israel, particularly from a political perspective in the U.S. because of the way President Trump did it without Congress, and even perhaps not fully explaining to Americans why he chose this moment. What do you make of that, and what would you say to people who are raising some of those questions?
Look, from a legal and sort of process point of view, I can certainly understand that argument. He didn't go to Congress to get authorization as the Constitution of the United States requires, so on and so forth. He didn't make his case to the American people. I understand all those, and I am usually someone that's quite vocal in speaking out against Donald Trump and what he does. But in this case, I think there was really a bigger principle at stake, which was, a people had risen up, and the president of the United States had offered them help. He had said, help is on the way. And he really needed to carry that out. So this is a regime that has posed a great danger to even the United States. It has killed many Americans, and it poses an existential danger to a critical U.S. ally, Israel. So already, American interests were at stake, and the reputation of the American president was at stake. Once he makes that promise, he really needs to make good on it. Otherwise, he will basically be as Obama was when he drew a red line in Syria and didn't enforce it.
What you saw the statement from the Canadian Prime Minister, from Prime Minister Carney. What role, if any, does Canada play here, or what did you make of the statement?
I was very pleased with the statement. This is a statement that I couldn't have imagined, for example, Justin Trudeau making. So I think it was a welcome development. The fact that Canada stands with the United States in this action, because I think this was the right step for the United States to take. I think Canada has an important role to play by virtue of the fact that it is home to a very large Iranian diaspora. And it's also been a country where a lot of Iranian regime officials have come to. They've brought their families here. They've parked their money here and invested in this country. So I think Canada has an important role to play in ensuring that Canada doesn't become a safe haven. It doesn't become kind of like Argentina after the Second World War, where a lot of Nazis escaped. I think we have to be very vigilant as this regime crumbles. It cannot become the place that Iranian regime officials escape to. If they come here, they have to, face justice under international law.
Kaveh Shahrooz, really good to get your expertise, both as a human rights lawyer and also an Iranian Canadian. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you so much, Rosemary.
There is obviously lots of reaction to this story here in Canada. For some, enthusiasm about the potential future for the country, but also real concerns about what's happening right now, what might happen next. Amir Amiri is an Iranian Canadian, and he joins me from Montreal this morning. Nice to see you.
Hello, Rosemary. How are you? Hello, everybody.
Well, how are you? How are you feeling about what is happening in Iran right now? Obviously, it's hard to get a clear picture. I'm sure you're in contact with people that you know, friends and family. How are you feeling?
Yes, we're all very jubilant. It's been 47 years in making, and we're Iranian people in general, the ones that I know, are very happy and dancing in the streets, and it's a good day. Yesterday, I thought we never will see this. I'm really happy to be part of this moment, and it's been great.
What are people telling you about sort of what they think has to happen next? Because you just heard our interview there with a military viewpoint about cutting off the head of the snake, but the regime is kind of structured in a way to protect itself from that happening and it collapsing. So what is your sense from people there?
From my friends and the people who are on the ground in Iran, I mean, there has been incredible amounts of dancing and partying in the street, for example, yesterday in Iran, in Tehran, in Karaj, in Gohardash, and there has not been even one incident of squashing or killing people, because as you know, about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, there was a huge massacre took place. So it's definitely, there's a sense of change amongst the people. There is a hopeful optimism that we can be together and we can turn a page. I mean, I am not a military or anything. I'm an artist, so those people know what they know. But there's a sense of optimism here with Iranian people, and we're very looking forward to finally coming to the international stage and to be contributing, in a sense, to the culture, to the well-being, rather than always being in a source of fear and terrorism and such, because Iranian people have a lot to offer to the international community, our culture, our food, our situations, and so it's a good thing. I feel like this could be a change, and I am pro-change. Let's change the things that don't work and hope for the best. Of course, maybe it's naive to think, okay, now this happened and we're all going to be okay and everything will be dandy afterwards. So we have to do engage ourselves and do some maybe activity and be present and contributing and try to. There are certain concerns for sure. It's not as easy as may think, but it's a good change. Is good.
When you heard that the Supreme Leader Khamenei had been killed, what were your feelings about that?
Well, we were in Montreal yesterday between 2 to 4 o'clock. It's been either Saturday or Sunday. There's been a gathering on St. Catherine streets almost every week, and so we're participating to be the voice of Iranian people. And all of a sudden, I heard this chirping amongst the demonstrators, and what happened? They said, and in Twitter, somebody announced that Ayatollah was dead. And I mean, I looked around me and everybody's head was in their cell phones trying to figure out, is this true? And then crowd erupted in joyous, some people crying, some people dancing, some people in a complete shock. It was a mental picture that needed to be shared with everybody. Like, it's crazy.
When was the last time you were in Iran, Amir?
1996.
And I imagine you dream of being able to go back and visit and.
Yes. It's yesterday for the first time. In fact, that was the first thought that came to my mind, to kind of, could it be amazing to go back to play music in my own country, and or take my Canadian friends to do this exchange and to live normal lives. It's a beautiful thought, you know.
Well, we will see how things unfold. Amir Amiri, thank you for putting a real face to the story and helping us understand what it means for you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Okay.